A dead woman sat straight up from the ground, turned her completely white eyes to 6 grown men and called every single one of their fathers by name, then told each man exactly how his father helped murder her. But what would you do if the spirit came for you? This happens more than people admit. Families all over this world have buried their sins deep and prayed the ground would hold. But the ground always shifts, and what is buried always rises. By the end of part 2 you will understand that it is not death you should fear, it is what the dead remember. She remembered everything. A dead woman sat up, looked at 6 grown men, and smiled, and not one of them could move. Not one of them could speak, not one of them could run. What would you do if something that should not be alive turned its white eyes toward you, and whispered your father's name like it had been waiting 40 years to say? Every person alive has something their family is hiding. A wrong that was done and never paid for, a secret that was buried and never spoken. And in every culture, in every country, across every generation, people have always feared the same thing. That one day, the debt comes due. Stay with this story, because what Mom Akua said when she opened her mouth, it did not just frighten those 6 men. It destroyed them. Nobody moved. The 6 men stood in a circle around Mom Akua and not one of them could lift a single foot. It was like the ground had swallowed their legs. Like the air had turned to stone around their bodies. She was lying on the ground one moment. Then she was sitting up. Nobody saw her move. 1 second she was flat on her back with her white eyes open and her chest rising and falling. The next second she was sitting straight up like someone had pulled her by an invisible rope. Her long white hair fell around her shoulders. Her rotted cloth hung from her body like old leaves. And she was still smiling. That smile was the worst part. It was not a warm smile. It was not a confused smile. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting a very long time for this exact moment and was finally satisfied. Elder Mensa was the first one to find his voice. Mom Akua, he said. His voice was shaking, but he forced the words out. We thought dead. She said. Her voice should not have worked. 40 years in a dark, wet well, her throat should have been nothing. Her voice should have been a ruin, but it came out clear, smooth, like water running over stones. I was dead, she said simply. And now I am not. She turned her wide eyes slowly around the circle of men. One by one, like she was counting them, like she was checking names off a list she had memorized long ago. 6 of you, she said softly. Just like that night, 6 sons, just like there were 6 fathers. The youngest man in the group, a man named Darko, made a sound in his throat like a trapped animal. Because his father had been one of the men who came to this compound 40 years ago, he knew it. He had always known it. His father had told him nothing, but his father's silence over the years had told him everything. Your father, Mom Akua said, and her white eyes landed on Darko like 2 stones dropping into still water, was the one who held my hand so I could not fight back. Darko stopped breathing. He told your mother it was an accident, she continued, her voice never rising, never breaking, smooth and steady and terrible. He told her he was not even there that night. He told that lie every day for 40 years. He told it so many times he almost believed it himself. She paused. Almost. Nobody spoke. The compound was so silent you could hear the weeds moving in the morning breeze. You could hear the birds that had finally started singing somewhere far away. Normal sounds, ordinary sounds, happening in the middle of something that was anything but ordinary. Mom Akua turned her eyes to the next man, a heavyset man named Apong, whose hands were now shaking at his sides. Your father, she said, was the one who threw me in. Apong made a sound like he had been punched. He took 1 step back and then stopped because his legs would not carry him any further. He told everyone I slipped, she said. He described it so clearly. The wet stones. My foot going out from under me. He was very specific. Very convincing. She tilted her head slightly to one side. He had to be. He practiced that story for weeks before anyone asked. She went around the circle like that. Man by man, name by name, each father, each action, each lie. Each carefully constructed story that had protected these families for 40 years unraveling in the cool morning air like old cloth, finally giving way. By the time she reached Elder Mensa himself, the old man had tears running silently down his face. And your father, Mom Akua said softly, was the one who placed the sealing stone. Elder Mensa closed his eyes. He was the last one to leave, she continued. He stood over that well for a long time before he walked away. He almost came back. 3 times he almost came back. Her voice dropped even lower. But he did not. Silence. Then Elder Mensa opened his eyes and looked at her directly. His voice was broken but steady. "What do you want from us?" he asked. Mom Akua looked at him for a long moment. The smile had faded now. What replaced it was something harder to read, not anger, not hunger. Something older than both of those things. "I want what was taken from me," she said quietly. "Your life." Elder Mensa whispered. She shook her head slowly. "My name," she said. "For 40 years this village has lived as if I never existed. No grave, no ceremony, no acknowledgement. You buried the truth so deep you thought it would stay buried forever." She looked around at all of them one final time. "Nothing stays buried forever." She began to rise to her feet. The men stepped back as one. She stood slowly, unsteadily, like someone learning to use a body again after a long time away. She was tall, taller than any of them remembered or imagined. She stood in the center of that ruined compound with her white hair, and her ruined cloth and her white eyes, and she looked like something the earth itself had grown tired of holding down. "Tell the village the truth," she said. "All of it. Every name. Every action. Every lie. Give me a proper burial. Speak my name in ceremony." She paused. "Do this and I will rest." Elder Mensa swallowed hard. "And if we don't?" he asked. Mom Akua smiled again. That same slow, patient, terrible smile. "You already know the answer to that," she said softly. "Your fathers knew it too. That is why they sealed the well." She turned and walked slowly back toward the open well. And one by one, she stepped back in. The sound she made going down was not a splash. It was not a thud. It was silence. Complete and total silence. Like the well had simply swallowed her whole. The 6 men stood there for a very long time. Then Elder Mensa turned to face them all. "Call the village together," he said quietly. "It is time to tell the truth. Part 3 is coming, and what happens when the village hears the truth is more terrifying than anything that came before. Subscribe to Gotti's Folktale Lessons and turn on your notifications right now. Because Part 3 will change everything you thought you knew about this story.